Thank you all for being here. And now, who am I introducing next? Who's next?
Distinguished guests, the Prime Minister of the Republic of India.
Oh yeah, now I remember. Who's that guy with the funny hat? Who's the guy with the hat over there? The bearded little fella. Who is it? Who am I introducing? He's the President of the United States, ladies and gentlemen. He forgot that Prime Minister Modi was at the White House. He was standing right there, but Joe Biden's looking around angrily, yelling like a character from The Simpsons. He really is, Homer Simpson's father, Abe Simpson. It's the Joe Biden life story. It has a sad ending. Joe Biden's life story. Very sad indeed. Poor Joe. Pretty funny stuff. In its own way. And you see, Kamala Harris wants to debate the former vice president. She doesn't know what office she's running for. She really doesn't know. Her brain, just like Joe Biden, her brain, she's a broke. She's a no good. That brain of hers, that's a no good. Just amazing stuff. The Democrat Party it really should be banned, don't you think? And they just amazing stuff. They don't have very bright people, but they do have Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton. Now, lots to talk about because Joe Biden and Kamala are still on the loose, and it's very sad indeed. The Democrat Party, the United States of America. I've got a new idea. I've got a new idea for saving the country. It's pretty straightforward, I think. To save the United States of America, here's what we need. The truth. We need true things that are true. We need to tell the truth about everything, and then we will save the country. It's one fell swoop. Everything needs to be true. The Democrats there are more Democrats who are talking about punishing speech. In fact, AOC, we got AOC. We can't have people saying things that are not true. Just like Hillary Clinton last week said, if you're spreading what the Democrat Party considers to be disinformation or misinformation, and that's everything that they don't want to hear, of course, then you should face charges. Charges, she said. Civil charges, possibly even criminal charges for things that you say. Then she clicked her heels and sang Deutschland über alles, and then she floated up in the sky and hopped on a broom. It was quite scary. There were little flying monkeys all over the place. She's a horror show, this woman. No, horror show. Terrible, absolutely terrible stuff. Amazing. So we've got her and, AOC, she's jumping on the bandwagon there with all that stuff. We can't allow people to say things that aren't true, according to the left-wing radicals of the Democrat Party, who are pro-Hamas. You see, they've got the Hezbollah. Democrats are now pro-Hezbollah, too, because when you start out being pro-Hamas and then Hezbollah steps up the way that they have, then naturally you have to be pro-Hezbollah as well, because what's the difference, really, between Hezbollah and Hamas? I think there are a couple of minor differences, spellings and things like that, but other than that, pretty much in the same boat. What kind of a boat is it, Michael? It's a sinking boat. It's a death ship. It's a slave ship. You know how the Democrats love slavery, and that's why they love lots of illegal aliens. Just like, who was it? Which Democrat was it last week that said that, the illegal aliens that, it was Hillary. Once again, it was Hillary Diane. Going to be troops on the streets. Troops. This is the lie, the big lie. Tell a lie 1,000 times. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth in the minds of Democrats. Hillary Clinton said Donald Trump is going to have troops out there pulling waitresses out of diners and taking your lawn care professional off of your front lawn, which is the way Democrats see illegal aliens, as cheap labor that they can beat with riding crops, like they're Haitians at the southern border, kind of like that. Amazing stuff. So we got Commie Kamala, pretty amazing stuff. And, this was a funny moment over the weekend. Janet Jackson, not of the Jackson 5, but of the Jackson 5 family. She wasn't allowed in the Jackson 5 because they're sexists. But Janet Jackson questions Kamala Harris's race. She's a woman of color. She's a WOC. And Janet Jackson calls into question Kamala Harris's race. She says she's not black. That's what I heard. See, it turns out that Janet Jackson knows that Kamala Harris's father was actually white. Of course, he's still alive, and I think he lives in Washington, D.C., and he's Jamaican, but never mind that. Might be one of those white Jamaicans. Janet Jackson believes U.S. election will end in mayhem. That's the word that she used, mayhem. So she's maybe not wrong about everything. Falsely claims Kamala Harris is not black. I was told they discovered her father was white. Well, he was white. He used to be, but then he chose one from another column, and now he's black. Amazing stuff. Great stuff. Also, Kamala Harris' big annual white tie dinner in New York City that the presidential candidates always go to every 4 years as a custom, a tradition. But Kamala Harris bails on famed charity dinner, historically attended by both candidates. And she is the first presidential candidate to willingly not attend like this since 1984. Who was the vice president then? Who was the presidential candidate then is the question. It was, you know who it is? It was Walter Mondale. It's Walter Mondale. It's Michael Piercy's an expert, not on presidential history, but vice presidential history. It's kind of a strange twist on that. Amazing stuff. They're good. Oh, and Tim Walz, not a bright man, and he didn't go to Iraq either. But he said he's campaigning, and he said we cannot afford we cannot afford 4 more years of this. That's what he said. We can't afford. He doesn't know who they're running against. It's amazing stuff. We cannot afford 4 more years of this. Well, this is the Democrats in charge. You're right. And finally, he accidentally tripped over something that's true. He said, we agree. We can't afford 4 more years of this. That's Kamala Harris's running mate. He's the governor of Minnesota, where they had that George Floyd thing and everybody was murdered and looted and burned because, Democrats, remarkable stuff. Yeah, great. But Kamala Harris wants to debate the former vice president. And so Dan Quayle he's in a limousine now headed to Washington, D.C. to debate Kamala Harris. Here's a crazy thing. President Trump is 78 years old, and Joe Biden is 81 years old. Dan Quayle is 77 years old. Dan Quayle, who was vice president during the H.W. Bush presidency, not W. Bush, but H.W. Bush, right after Ronald Reagan. Dan Quayle is 77 years old today, still younger than Donald Trump and much, much younger than Joe Biden. And his brain, I got to tell you, I put him up against Kamala Harris in a debate any time. I think at 77, Dan Quayle would mop the floor with that one. That one, can you say that one? I think you can say that one. Also, headline is Joe Biden still president. What? What is it? What is he? He was at the White House, and we played the audio there. He meant to introduce the Indian prime minister, the world's second most populous nation, and Modi, right, Narendra Modi, and he couldn't remember who was there, and the prime minister was standing right there, and Joe was angry, and he was growling and gnashing his teeth, and it was a terrible thing. Also, they had a reunion of the West Wing TV show cast at the White House because it's all a terrible television show. And I think that Jill Biden presided over that. I don't think Joe Biden showed up for that. I don't think Joe Biden is up to even showing up for the ceremonial stuff anymore. We are really like a third world banana republic with monkeys swinging in trees and stuff. We're not a legitimate first world country anymore. Am I right about that? I think I'm pretty right about that. Amazing stuff. Also, the number 2 would-be Trump assassin is due in court today. He's due back in court today. And there is new information out about him. That's pretty amazing stuff. I've got to say, turns out that the would-be assassin, Ruth, right, R-O-U-T-H, and Ruth, he's back in court today. Turns out that, the FBI wasn't on to him or anything, but he had 2 license plates for his cars. He had 6 cell phones, 6 different cell phones, and he apparently offered a $150,000 bounty for anyone that would kill President Trump. And the FBI, they weren't on to him because they were too busy chasing down Catholic mothers and grandmothers that prayed outside of abortion clinics on January 6th or something like that. Just amazing stuff. But, we've got an update on this creepy Democrat boy. The Democrats still want to say, oh, no, he's a Republican or something like that, because if they're talking, they're lying. Speaking of if they're talking, they're lying, my best girl and I at home this morning on the couch, going through the news, and my best girl laughed at one point, and whenever she laughs, she was looking at the Washington Post, I should say that. We got the Washington Post on the front doorstep, and she was going through the Washington Post. I had my iPad and the TV remote control and DVRing things and stuff, and I had one section of the Washington Post too, I think. But she laughed out loud, and I said, "What? What is it?" Because whenever she laughs while looking at the Washington Post, it's usually something good. Because they're so stupid. These people are so stupid. But this is great. They made the weather political, right? Now that the weather is political. Oh, the weather outside is frightful. And the Democrats are not delightful. But looking at the weather page, it's the back page of the B section, the Metro sectional. Some of them are A-sectional and some of them are Metro-sectional. And the back page, B6, Boys 6 on the back, they have the weather. And today's weather is today mainly cloudy. And it got a little graphic of a sun with some little black clouds in front because, it's never sunny in Philadelphia for these people. But here it is. Here's what she laughed at. Today's high temperature is 73 degrees. Feels like 74. Feels like 74. It's going to be 73 degrees, but it's going to feel like 74 degrees. Now, you guys are mental, what is the word, midgets or dwarves or little people? They have to be mental little people now? What is it? Can we have mental little people throwing contest in the bar like in Australia? Just amazing. Yeah, so I'm not kidding. I should photograph this and send it out because it's too ridiculous. Today's high is 73 degrees, and it's got feels like with an asterisk next to it, right? Feels like 74 degrees. Now, if you can tell the difference, and here's the thing. If it feels like 74 degrees, you know what the temperature is? It's 74 degrees. That's how temperature works. That's what temperature is all about. Temperature is about how warm or how cold it feels. So if it feels like 74 degrees, then it is 74 degrees. That's how that works. But they're telling us the high is going to be 73 degrees, but it's going to feel like 74 degrees. This is what happens when you politicize the weather, which the left has done because they're communists and they're mentally ill people. And they got their boy Ruth in court today. When he shows up in court, Ruth, the would-be assassin in Florida, do you think he's going to be wearing his pink T-shirt pulled up over his breastises like he was when he was arrested? He's a perfectly normal Democrat. There's nothing unusual about him. Democrats are pretty much all like this now. And they panic because, global warming and climate change and the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon. And that's what they teach their little girls. Speaking of which, that reminds me, the Democrats have driven the teen suicide, the urges for teens to commit suicide, through the roof because they're being raised in Democrat world. And really, who wants to live in this stuff? and when it's all they know. All right, but if you're in Washington, D.C. today, just be aware that it's going to be 73 degrees, but it's going to feel like 74. It's never too early to panic. We are at 888-630-9625.
I told my 9-year-old daughter that I was going to be speaking with you, and I said, what do you think about climate change? And she said, the earth is on fire, and we're all going to die soon. And I asked her how that made her feel, and she said it made her feel angry.
Yes. Democrat members of Congress are raising their children, I think, to be suicide bombers. Speaking of, they've already produced a lot of suicide attackers, the Democrats have. 5 self-immolators, the Democrats, and 5 suicide attacks on police, murders of police in the background. Speaking of which, Greta Thunberg, you know Greta von Thunberg, she's a lot of fun. She's back. She's out in the street. Somebody gave her a microphone, and they got people banging drums, and now Greta von Thunberg is pro-Hamas. She's out there being pro, and right now you got to be pro-Hezbollah too. But she's marching in the street with wearing a Palestinian headdress, yelling into a microphone, walking behind a Volkswagen pickup truck with giant speakers in the back that are bigger than she is, and she's trying to rhyme while she condemns the Jews. And since we just played that Katie Porter, Congresswoman Katie Porter from California, tell you about, I want to check in on her daughter because her daughter was 9 years old when she said that her 9-year-old daughter, she was talking to Greta Thunberg when she said that, when Congresswoman Katie Porter said that, and now Greta Thunberg is back, and now she's for killing the Jews. She wants to kill the Jews. She's like the opposite of Anne Frank, but she should go hide in an attic somewhere. I think that would be better for everybody. Also, we just checked the weather since today in Washington, the high is 73, but it's going to feel like 74. You should panic. You should panic now. We looked it up. Turns out the record high for this date was 95 degrees. 95 degrees. When was that, Michael? Last year during Glim? Oh, that was in 1895. That was in 1895, well over a century ago. And the record low on this date. Hey, there goes Greta. And the record low on this date was 60 degrees. When was that? Because that was 1918. 1918. World War I was about to come to an end. We were looking forward to the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month. 1918. 60 degrees on that day, but the record high of 95 degrees, that was in 1895. Turns out weather and temperatures fluctuate. So we've got Joe Biden for you today and Kamala Harris and Greta von Thunberg, who lives in fear of everything. But right now, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Robin, calling from Perry, Georgia. Robin has called back. Robin, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
So sorry that you took my call, but I want to question you as far as why do you keep on telling people about the Democratic Party is a part of the KKK, which it is. Now, but we understand.
That's why I keep saying that.
Yes, but during that time, the Republican Party was Abraham Lincoln had many blacks, but then the Democrat, President Lincoln, he had a Democrat as his vice president.
Right.
So that means that
which is why they killed him. That means when a Democrat shot Abraham Lincoln in the head and assassinated him, that a Democrat vice president, because Abraham Lincoln wanted unity across the parties. And, the Civil War, the Democrats were the Confederate States of America. And Andrew Johnson was the vice president because of the Unity Party. And then, of course, they shot Abraham Lincoln, a Democrat did, in the head and murdered him. And then a Democrat took over the presidency, right?
Right, that is correct because, like I said, the Democratic Party during that time was all white males, and they had no even white females, and they definitely didn't have any blacks in it. And so during the time when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, a lot of the blacks started going over to the Democratic Party. And then anytime when the blacks move in, the whites move out. And, of course, like I said, the blacks started moving to the Democratic Party, and the Democratic whites was leaving that party going to the Republican Party. So that's what happened. That's the true story of the history of it. So when I even want to ask you, how do your fiance, I guess that she's a black woman, and how she feel about if the Republicans, and of course with J.D. Vance, I call him Jeffro the Hillbilly, but anyway, if he was to become, they are trying to deny black women, especially the right to vote, because like I said, I think it was only until 1963 that they had the right to vote. So they're trying to take away that. That's what the Project 2025 is all about, as far as to set the blacks back 100 years or more, because that's what Trump did as far as appointing these 3 Supreme Court justices, these conservatives. And the conservatives are ones who, even the judgeship as of today, they care nothing about civil rights. And I know because, like I said, in my county, Houston County, Georgia, I've been trying for 49 years to become a teacher, even though I'm a national certified teacher. I can't get a job as far in the Houston County school system because the superintendent, when we integrated in 1970, said that if a black graduated from Fort Valley State University, of course that's in Fort Valley, Georgia, that they was not going to be hired in the state of Georgia. And because of this racism that's going on as of today, and because of the conservative judges that we had, and one of them told me if I ever come back in his court again, he's going to throw the book at me.
That's right. Well, you've covered a lot of territory there, Robin, but I got to say, the Democrat Party is the party, as you made note, that created the KKK and their boy Nathan Bedford Forrest, and you know that they're the party of the Confederate States of America. And Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, a Democrat, Abraham Lincoln, a Republican. It's true, he picked a Democrat to be his vice president. There weren't a lot of Republicans to choose from because the Republican Party was brand new, and Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican to become president, and naturally a Democrat shot him in the head and murdered him, and then there was a Democrat vice president waiting to take over. You know that also, Robin, that the Democrat Party created Jim Crow laws, and every single Jim Crow law was a Democrat law, and that Joe Biden famously said when they were racially integrating schools in his state of Delaware that he didn't want his kids going to school in a racial jungle, and you know that his crime bill put black people in prison for things that white people wouldn't go to prison for. For example, you didn't go to prison for powdered cocaine, but you did go to prison for crack cocaine, and then his son became a crackhead, kind of ironically, isn't it? Isn't that ironic? You also mentioned women getting the vote. You know, the 19th Amendment in 1920 gave women the vote at long last, and the Democrat Party successfully fought against women getting the vote for about 20 years, almost 2 decades. The Republicans were trying to get women the vote, while the Democrats opposed it on Capitol Hill and fought against it, hammer and sickle. And then when it was passed through Congress and signed reluctantly by a left-wing racist president, Woodrow Wilson, the only president buried in Washington, D.C., entombed in the National Cathedral here in Washington, never been vandalized, interestingly enough. His grave, the cathedral's been vandalized, but his tomb has never been vandalized by the Democrats because they love racial segregation and all that stuff. But the Democrats then shifted the fight against women getting the vote to the states, because once it passed through Congress, it went to the states, and 2/3 of the states have to approve it. And the Democrats fought once again, hammer and sickle, state by state, to keep women from getting the vote. You might begin to think that the Democrat Party is not the nicest bunch of people. They also created the failed school systems in Chicago and Baltimore and Washington, D.C., where people graduate from high school while reading at a 3rd grade level. And then the Democrats labeled it the school to prison pipeline, right? And they're the ones that created the schools and the prisons and the pipeline, just by the way. And speaking of which, going back and forth with a friend of mine in Chicago over the weekend with Vince and trading stories, at least 33 people were shot in Chicago over the weekend, including 6 fatally shot, at least one mass shooting, but 6 killed and a total of 33 shot, so 27 wounded in Chicago over the weekend. And that's perfectly normal on any normal weekend in Chicago, run by Democrats forever, and racist Democrats, too, I might say. And let's go Brandon Johnson, who was a teacher himself, wasn't he, Robin, and a school principal. And now he's the mayor of Chicago, and he's even worse than Lori Lightfoot was as mayor of Chicago, which is a horror show to everybody that will be murdered on her watch. Now, just to be clear, Robin, you're still planning on voting Democrat on Election Day.
Yes, I am, and it just kind of like hit some of the parts that you said, and especially during this talk, as far as they consider the Civil War was because of states' rising. This is what Trump is trying to say, as far as he's glad that even the abortion is going to the states. But however, it was really over slavery. And again, I still emphasize that during the time that most of the Democrats were, again, all white males, and which all during the Jim Crow laws and everything. And as far as this is exactly what I'm saying now. The white male, even though I'm a Democrat, I would continue to be a Democrat because, like I said, I know that Republicans are basically, especially with Trump in control. Now he's a convicted felon that haven't been sentenced. That's the main point of it. They talking about where he can't
Democrats
be convicted unless he's sentenced.
Democrats. Now, so you're saying that the problem with racism and Jim Crow and the Confederacy is not necessarily the Democrat Party, it's just white males.
Basically, you're right as far as what I'm saying. I'm not going to say all the white males because, like I said, we got a white male running for the vice president as far as
and he's okay.
Walls, and that he's well, what were you trying to say?
No, and he's okay. He's a white male, but he's okay because he's a...
Yes, like I said, and of course, the president of the United States is white male, so we do have some white males, but I'm saying the majority of the white males, and as I said, the hillbillies, as far as the one...
The hillbilly.
The
That's
one like
a slur, okay.
Fans, that's what he said.
So,
he called himself a hillbilly, and I'm saying those are the ones who they call. Like I said, Trump, he's not going to get in the black females. You're not going to get any really the white and the white urban suburban so the only one that he can depend on the hillbillies, the country white that don't we're not really educated, love guns, love killing, and that's why I was saying about the shooting there. And by the way, have you noticed that when Trump got shot, so-called shot, that bandage over over his ear for 4 days, and then on the 5th day after the convention, his ear looked perfect as where he took out the bandage. And how in the world that
a couple of things.
Your halfway shut off, and then yet all of a sudden that is perfectly, and then this is really what it does. The second
a couple of things.
Assassination.
I just want to be clear about a couple of things here. But you say now you're an African American man, and you're talking about white men here being the problem and not Democrats. But you seem to say that when you look at white men, there are some good ones. There are some good ones. Huh? There are? Yeah, there are some good ones. So
I let's see you say you are. I'm going to like I said, but I kind of wonder about your black girlfriend as far as how does she feel? I don't know. I know she's going to vote against me anyway because she's going to go vote Republican.
My wife is going to be furious when she finds out about this. But,
she wife? You all got married now?
But that's I got married. Yeah, I know. After a long time.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much, Robin.
But I just know that you.
But I want to get back to, you think there are some good white men. There are some, there is the typical white man, but, there are some good ones, which is pretty much, what the Klan used to say about black people is that, there are some good ones. There are some good ones. So you've kind of adopted the KKK's approach to that. And I find that interesting. And then what was the next part? The other than
Trump was claiming that there was some good KKK members. Remember when he was saying there were some good ones? So what are you talking about? Yes, for us, there are no really good KKK members, but this is what Trump was talking about, and that's why he got in so much trouble, because he's saying that there are some good. But then, like I said, and I guess in all America.
Now, Robin, let me share this with you since you brought this up, and this is the Democrats lie like Joseph Goebbels of the Socialist Workers' Party in Europe in the 1930s and 40s. But what President Trump said that day that you just misquoted, but it's not your fault because, all the Democrats lie about this because they all lie all the time. They're a lot of filthy liars. But here's what President Trump actually said.
You had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
See, now that's what he said, Robin. He didn't. So
he did say that, but he also said that there was some good and there was some.
No, that's the quote. That's the quote that the Democrats keep misrepresenting because they lied to you. But it's working. It's working on you. You're going to vote for them, and they're the party of the bullwhip and the lynching tree. And what did they? They had a rope and a thing just last week. The Democrats. They. Oh yeah, the guy who was threatening to murder this. Oh yeah, he was threatening another Democrat arrested last week, Robin, who was promising to assassinate, to murder 6 members of the Supreme Court, including Clarence Thomas. And he told Clarence Thomas he was going to lynch him, and he had a rope, and he's got photographs of a rope and stuff, carrying on Democrat Party traditions, right, Robin?
Well, get on Clarence Thomas. I don't want to go into all that, but he's not really a black man. I hate to say he's black on the outside.
Really? Is that right?
On the inside, what they call an Oreo cookie.
He's an Oreo. You should. There's a great documentary film about him, Robin, that you should watch. He's from the town of Pinpoint, Georgia. He grew up in abject poverty with no shoes and no electricity, and making his way in the world, and he became a scholar, and also look at his record as a Supreme Court justice in terms of. But there's a wonderful documentary that you should watch about. I don't know where you can find it right now, but I'm sure you can, about Clarence Thomas. Just a wonderful documentary film, and it'll tell you all about Clarence Thomas. And Clarence Thomas, I should say, is a friend of mine, Robin, and a wonderful person and a wonderful American, and has been living a most extraordinary life. And you should wonder about your political party, the Democrat Party, smearing him and slandering him the way that they have, especially with their history of racism. And honestly, I just want you to take a look. You're talking about how there's some good white people, and I think did he mumble something in there about I might even be one of them? I don't know. I might even be one of the good ones. But it's the old racist trope, Robin. That when Democrats were talking about black people, well, there are some good ones, the Democrats used to say way back when. But, Robin, you've bought into the whole Democrat Party thing. They've got you on the plantation, my friend. It's time to find the exits because, and then you quote Donald Trump saying something that he didn't say at all, but the Democrat Party lied to you about it 1,000 times. Because they learned from their boy, Joseph Goebbels, or as the Reverend Al Charlatan likes to call him, Gurgle. He calls him Gurgle because he's a scholar of sorts. And, their boy, Gurgle of the Socialist Workers' Party, famously said, a lie told once remains a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And that is the Democrat Party's program.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Gurgle?
All right, let's go back to the phones. Let's go back to Anonymous. Anonymous, we have a lot of anonymous callers calling from Tacoma Park, Maryland. Anonymous, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Oh, I'm not anonymous, Senor Planty. My name's Bob.
All right, Bob, welcome.
Roberto. Welcome to my home every day as well, Senor Planty. And it is a daily occurrence. I mean, it's like you're a member of the family. We're all immeasurably more stupid for listening to that guy Robin for as long as we did. I mean, you're so patient and compassionate. What a dyed-in-the-wool racist ignoramus. I mean, unbelievable. I'm surprised he didn't trot out the old chestnut. Skin folk ain't kinfolk when he talked about Clarence Thomas, who is should be one of the most, and is to those with more than two brain cells bumping into each other in their noggins, should be one of the most esteemed people in the country. And all he can do is heap disrespect on him. It's just sad. It's just sad to listen to.
Well,
that
the
guy.
Democrat Party, the party of the Confederacy and the Klan and Jim Crow, has indoctrinated millions and millions of people, and they've targeted African Americans with their propaganda. And again, the movie, I don't know if you've seen it, Bob, but Created Equal is the name of the movie. You can go to justicethomasmovie.com. And it is then, Robin would have a very different view of Clarence Thomas.
No, he wouldn't. You can't change Robin's mind. It's called willful ignorance. It's called willful ignorance.
Yeah.
We all have access to the same information at this point. You told him, you played the quote for him of President Trump explicitly denying and castigating white supremacists and racists, and it didn't budge Robin's mind one iota.
Yes, that's true, and that's true. You can play it for him, you can put the video in front of him and say, yeah, but it's what are you going to believe, your lion eyes, or what the Democrat Party tells you?
Willful ignorance. It's choice. It's called willful for a reason. It's a choice.
And you live in Tacoma Park, which you started out talking about.
I'm behind enemy lines.
Yeah,
I'm an alien I'm an alien anthropologist.
One of the most left-wing communities. It's the first nuclear-free zone in the United States of America.
If they put Vladimir Lenin on the ballot for the city council in Tacoma Park, he would get every vote, except for mine.
They have a co-op. They have a co-op there where they sell, I think, rotten vegetables grown by communists or something.
They wouldn't take cash during the pandemic. You couldn't take cash to the co-op.
Tacoma Park, Maryland. Well, congratulations. Thank you, Bob, for the call.